Hello and welcome to the game I'm making in Unity 3D. This is the the first game that I've ever made or tried to make. Obviously it's not made yet, it's like close to getting made. And it's the first project in general at all that I've ever made, like coding wise, or using code to start a project. I've always wanted to make a game, but the coding side of it's always really perplexed me. I've never really understood code and it's been really difficult to grasp when I've tried. And the main thing is just starting it because the start was the hardest part. I've always just procrastinated and procrastinated and procrastinated. But thanks to Unity, having like inbuilt features for physics and stuff like that, it's actually been much easier than I thought it was in my head. In my head as well, I was like, well, it has to be a 2D game for my first one because that's going to be easier to make than a 3D game, which would be the case. However, Unity again has lots of like 3D features that makes it much easier than I thought it would be. So the game's called The Tale of the Goddess. None of the actual game lore wise is implemented yet. This is just like the first update. The reason why I'm making these update videos as well is first of all, so it motivates me to make more ones in the future to progress so I can actually see how I'm progressing as we go. Also, I think it'll be entertaining to watch somebody making their first game with no experience of coding and like gathering that as I go. And the other reason is if everybody else was wanting to make a game, they might get inspired by this to make their own creation, which I think would be quite cool if even if one person decides they've been wanting to make a game or wanting to code and they didn't know how to start or didn't know where to start. So I'll go. I'll just go over how I've begun this, and obviously bear in mind, I know people will be like, that was crap, especially people that codes in Unity. They're like, what are you doing? That's the whole point of this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I will because I'll just learn as I go. And the main thing up until this point is that I've got a starting point, and then I can begin from there. So what I'll start by I'll just explain a little bit of what the game's going to be. Obviously, I'll just make it brief because it's not anywhere close to that point at the moment. Basically, it's like an RPG fantasy game, and the main aspect that I quite enjoy that I've kind of come up with is like okay, I want to be able to explain everything in game lore wise for things that happened or think like have reason to if that makes any sense. So even though it's fantasy and even though there's like magic and powers and all that, there is like an in-game explanation for how that exists in the world, which if that existed like in our world could potentially happen. That's what I like quite like. So I've quite enjoyed that having a way to try to explain everything rather than just being like, oh, that was magic because it's magic and or it was some special spell or whatever. Nah, there's like reason for everything, which makes it more impactful because it feels more kind of like a real story that way. It's something that could actually happen given the things that's happened in this game with its spoilers. The other main thing that I've tried to explain lore wise is obviously respawning. So in games, the main thing that every game has in common is you respawn because like if you died and the game ended, it wouldn't be very fun unless it's part of the game. Like some games do it, but you get what I'm saying. So the in game role, lore reason of why you respawn is because basically the, in the story, so lore wise, there's these people trying to like eliminate and destroy like your bloodline, like your direct bloodline and you, which is explained and they succeed because they do. And so your first time you die is a like an unavoidable death, right? Basically. And then you go up and you beat like the goddess, which is this in-game version of a god, and she explains that you weren't meant to die, and like the timeline's kind of out of sync because she has like a story and like a path for everybody, and like you weren't meant to die this way. So because the evil people well, they're not really evil because they also have reasons for what they're doing. But the people that want to try and kill you and the people that did kill you, because they weren't meant to do so, because they've kind of changed the way things are and they've kind of came out a bit out of whack. Because they've did that, the goddess is willing to grant you the ability to basically respawn and relive your life with memories of what happened before your death, if that makes any sense. So because they've kind of changed the rules in a sense and messing with time itself by like changing things that weren't meant to be changed and doing things that weren't meant to be done, she gives you the ability to try and fix that and stop them. And by doing that, she allows you to essentially respawn. And in doing so, you remember what happened before, which gives you the ability to then come back and be able to kind of right the stuff wrong that's happened without it being like too impactful to the timeline because you're already dead and you weren't meant to die. And this happens like 100 years after you die in your timeline, just so nobody like remembers you. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, and that kind of explains why after you when you die like in game, why you get sent back. It's not just like you respawn and there's no reason to it. It's that's been like as by purpose. So what I've did so far to get up to this point is movement. So the camera obviously moves wherever you look and point the mouse. Then you can't move past 180 degrees upwards, which is because you have a neck and you can't do that in real life. The camera stops also down and you can't move past your feet because again, just try to make it a bit realistic. That's how things go. However, understand as well, my guy right now is just a wee cylinder. Well, he's called a capsule. That's what the object's called. So he's just basically like a tic tac. So he doesn't have any legs. He doesn't have any neck. So realistically, he should be able to look wherever he wants. But you get the gist. He's just a placeholder for to get things running, and then I'll design an actual model later on when I know how to do that. My main struggle was I had no idea how any of these things would work. So that what's helped me, what not helped me, what was did the coding for me is ChatGPT because that's really helped. You can just basically copy code from that and ask it what you need to do, and then it'll write the code for you. Obviously, I understand that this can get tricky later on because you might if something goes wrong or there's an error or like you're not going to know how the code works from the fundamentals. I do get that. Whatever, I'll deal with that when it comes. This is my way of learning as well because I'm learning by design because I'm mostly like good at ideas. So this helps me like do the mathematics and coding part, and then by implementing it and seeing how it runs, I'm then understanding it, and vice versa. Then with WASD, you can move around. Also got a wee crouch animation, just well not animation. It's essentially just the camera moving down, but it seems like you're crouching, which was actually really easy to add. It was just to click it. It was just like a really simple code. I just wanted to see if that could be done. That's cool. And then sprint as well, which from what I understand, it basically just it keybinds to like when you press that button, you're just it's the same as you moving, but obviously the amount you move is faster. That didn't really explain, but you get the gist again. But that's really it for the movement and the camera. Unity is really good because it has a camera. Like there's a thing called the main camera, which basically is what you're seeing right here. So I didn't need to code what the visual or the visual. I didn't need to code what you're seeing because there's an actual object in the game builder called main camera, and wherever you put that, that's where the camera looks, and that's where you see. So I put it in like the head of my character, or not the head. He's not got a head. He's just a wee ball, but the top of my character. Like for example, if I put it on my feet, he would probably be looking like this, walking around. And the the main problems I had, which I probably sound stupid explaining this because now that I've implemented these things, I feel stupid that I didn't know what it was at first. But again, I'm the first time doing it. But I'll tell you what I struggled with to begin with, and if anybody like relates or has the same similar problems, they can like relate and see like what's been done there. Okay. Okay. So my first method of like trying to get this started was watching videos on YouTube, which the people are really helpful, right? And they are really good. However, the main problem was it was, which I didn't notice at the time, but it was an older version of Unity, and there's a lot of things changed since then. For instance, when you code something like, for example, the movement or the camera movement, that's called a script, and the script you essentially enter the code in, and then you attach that script to the object. So, like for example, the movement and the camera is attached to the player, like this object, which is a wee blob, and that allows the script to work on the object that it's meant to work with. My problem was every tutorial online, it was showing you like it was showing you, okay, you create a script, and it said create C# script, which I'll show you this now. Let's see. Yeah, so like the way you do it is, oh yeah, I need to pause that. Okay, there we go. That should let me see now. Yeah, so the way you actually do this is in here. So this is all like your models and stuff like that. That's where you can get like textures and stuff and bring it into the actual game, which is the objects that are here, which again I will go over in a minute. But with actual scripts, which is the code essentially, which mine are there, you make a wee folder called scripts, which goes somewhere in there. Yeah, scripts. But all the tutorials online, it was like I was getting to that point, and I was like, okay, got it. I can see scripts, made a folder. Then all the tutorials online, it was saying, okay, create. No, here, yeah, create, and you create a script. Yeah, so tutorials online, it basically there was none of these. The folder was like down there. There was like half of these and different names for it, and then there was just a bit that said C# script. I couldn't find it anywhere. I was like, what? What? I don't understand this. And then even when I was going to like scripting, there was ones in there like empty C# script, but then that's like a different one. So yeah, I was struggling with that. But then I found out that because of different Unity, it's all layered differently. So it's actually a mono behavior script now, which is what the tutorials online was saying as a C# script. And that was the first part that I didn't understand. And then the code didn't work, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? That was the most difficult part. That took me days to get past that. I kept making new Unity games, starting fresh, copying each tutorial like from the start, and I would get to that point, and it would just like give me an error message, something about player movement is old legacy, try bind to the new movement which you're on right now, and I was like, well, what's going on? And I was looking it up, and then there was from online, I gathered that Unity, I think definitely it was this year, they changed the way you map keys to a different way. And the reason for this is it makes it easier to basically have controls over different consoles. So what I've gathered and heard from other like developers or people that are designing games is, say you make, for example, the on the old Unity way to bind keys. If you made the game offer like a computer, which is the easiest way to start, and you build like a whole game and all the keys are mapped to the keys for a computer, like WASD for movement, you got crouch, you got like interactions with objects and stuff like that. It's like say E. You basically got like keys across the whole game and the whole code and different like bits of the game all under mapped for a computer. And then if you want to release the game on a different console, like a PlayStation or Xbox or a mobile device, it can be really, really difficult. As you know, like like Stardew Valley, like Stardew Valley is made on a computer for a computer, and now it's on like different consoles. But it took like ages to actually like change that over because they had to read well, not read the whole game, but read the whole mapping of it. Apparently, the new way of Unity makes it much easier. However, I didn't understand even the old way of Unity, so I was like, how am I gonna? I don't even understand what the old way of Unity is actually doing it for, and so I don't understand how to even implement the new one. So I sent the picture of the error message to ChatGPT, which is really handy because the other option is to like Google the actual error message unless somebody has your specific error message and is fixed it. You're not going to get like an actual fix for it, you know. So it basically ChatGPT just responded instantly and was like, "Oh, basically you're an idiot, Bailey. You are using the new version of Unity. The code you're using is for the old version of Unity. This is what I need to do to change it." Yeah, and then I was like, "Well, what are the options do I have?" And then they were like, "Well, it's probably good to use the new version of Unity code as it'll be easier later on and as a legacy code, so it'll probably work better. However, the old way of using it, the old code for mapping the keys is actually much easier to understand. So the best of both worlds is to change the setting to work with both ways. That way I can start it off by using the old code to make movements, which I did, and that fixed the error. But also it works with the new code as well. So therefore, when I get to a point in the game before it gets too developed, when it'd be too late to like backtrack, I can remap it and change to the new code when I understand it better and understand the fundamentals. I guess somebody else was having that problem. Let me show you how it was done. So in the window, no, backtrack, in edit, you go to project settings and then you go down to this should be un unclicked. So you click it to expand it and then it's down in yeah, this one. So active input handling. That's the the different versions of Unity ways to map the keys. So if you're getting sort of any like coding errors to do with key mapping, this would be the it even says it there. Yeah. So the one I'm on now is legacy feature not recommended for new project, blah blah blah. So I cut to both and then that makes it work with any of the code that I was watching on YouTube videos and make it work with this code that I've got today. Just in case that helps anybody, because that took me a long while to actually understand because I didn't even understand the code. Never mind why they would had different versions of code. Yeah, let's go back to the game. Then the next thing that I struggled with is okay, I've got the code. Code, there's no errors. That's good. That's dandy. And I loaded up the game right, and my guy was like moving around. Well, not moving around. I could see the camera moving. I was like, yes, yes, done something. This is after days of my guy not doing anything. I was going mad. But he was like falling through the ground and he was just like rolling around and falling through the sky and just falling forever and ever into an endless void. And I'd already, bear in mind at this point, I had already given up because I was like spending days trying to just make the guy do anything. And I was like, what now, man? What now? So then chat, obviously, on that is an obvious fix, but I could see what was happening there. I was like, there's obviously it's not registering that the ground is something that should be passable through. So I wasn't like I knew what the issue was, didn't know how to resolve it. Then sent to ChatGPT. That ChatGPT explained that so my guy has physics, my object has physics, the person that I move, and let me expand this actually. So my guy has physics, and the game knows that my guy is a solid body. However, the ground needs to have its own collider, it's called, which right now is a box collider. So then it registers that these things cannot pass. So then I looked it up. So then I loaded it up and I was like, okay, I can my guy's not falling to the ground, right? But he almost was because he was like my guy was like rolling about like this. He was like he was like as if he was like really drunk and the camera would move, and I was seeing like half through the ground, half not, because I was like rolling, and it was like this, like it was just like this, basically. And I was like, what's going on now, man? Like, surely, because in my head I was like, okay, well, I was like half three seen through the ground, but I wasn't going down. So I was like, what's happening? So something's wrong. And so I sent it to ChatGPT. Chat told me I had to freeze the upright axis. So because my guy, I've applied physics to my guy, right? So then I was like, okay, that makes total sense because Unity has its own inbuilt physics engine, right, which is great, and it was actually working. It was working fine for what I intended to use it for. No, not what I intended to use it for, but how physics works. So bear in mind, my guy's not a person with legs. My guy is a little cylinder with no way to move his legs, no balance. He doesn't have any legs, so obviously he's going to be rolling about the ground because he's just a wee ball. Like that's it. Obviously, so I had to like then freeze the Z axis, whatever it's called, the axis that is upright, so my guy doesn't move from being upright, even though he should in the form that he's in. But then that allows me to walk around. So I got that, and then with Dixed. So I was so happy with that because then I was like, that was the hardest part over. As soon as I got my guy to actually move and walk around, it, it was honestly a godsend. Godsend, more like a goddess send, am I right? That's the name of the game. Alright, so yeah, where was I? I took a break there, that's why the transition happened. Yeah, we're talking about movement controls. That was, yeah, so they were moving. So everything you see that's that's in this wee town, it's a really crap town, yeah. I'm still obviously working on it. This is the first update. That's why a lot of stuff I'm just playing around with. They're all called assets, and these are all pre-made by somebody else, which I'm still figuring out if I should make my own later on, kind of thing. But these exist. You can buy ones from the Unity store, and you can also there's free ones as well. I got my ones from free from this website. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but I'll link it below. That's pretty good because you can just hold assets whatever you're doing for, and it really speeds up the process. I also understand that from seeing like people talk about Unity and like people that code in Unity, it seems like there's a stigma around using free assets because I saw a video and it was like this guy's first game, and then somebody commented like, "Yeah, it looks like it's all just free assets." That's what it looks like. It's like okay, fair, but also this game's gonna have heart, right? It's gonna have like a great story, and if I can put more work into the actual functionality and the story and the fun, yeah, sure. Like a game, I don't like Cyberpunk or The Witcher, where it's like every asset's unique to that game and it's unique. It's my first game. I don't give a flying fuck if I'm using assets. I really don't care. It makes the game. It's about like the actual heart of the game and what it does. Yeah, sure, it might look like a generic Unity game, but I can change that. This is just like the first thing I'm making it. I think that's just I don't know like Unity gatekeeping Unity boys that are like yeah, looks like you just got that. You guys go make a game then and use your own assets and do that. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not trying to be. So yeah, I, I guess if you're going to use assets, use assets. Like who cares? Also, yeah, as well, I get it that these buildings are much smaller than my guy. My guy's not a giant. He's actually going to be smaller than the guy because in this scene, this is the introduction and the tutorial and like the first kind of setup to the game. So in this scene, you're going to be like a kid. You're not going to be even an adult. So he's going to be like tiny, tiny, tiny. and because it's set in the past, because this is when you wait when you die for the first time, and then blah blah blah, get respawned, and so you're going to be able to go back here, but it's not in the same time. So this is, but what I'm trying to say is my guide is huge, a huge capsule, which is just a template. So before anybody like comments, yeah, my guy is the wrong size. Totally get that. This is just me starting. Not nothing in this whatever you want to call this is probably going to actually be there. Well, this is just me like trying stuff out. The trees are all assets. They're all one size, and I've just changed the size of them. I'm just playing about to make them kind of look more unique and not just like a set template. I was kind of going for an idea of like Pokemon, like the town is the towns in the first starting town in Pokemon's kind of like surrounded by trees, and that kind of gives the blockade. Kind of got that idea just so I can like get a basic map where I can have everything in. So again, I took like maybe 15 minutes making this, so I've not, and this is going to be improved as well. That's why some of them are like flying as well, like this one. That's not by design. That's just flying away, and yeah, nothing really is concrete. I'm going to have yeah forest area, then this this area is the entry point to the town, so it's going to be like a forest walk. Then there's going to be like a shrine and all that to the goddess, but you're not really going to be able to leave the town. Not really, just a wee. This is the entry to the town. That's why the watchtower is here, which I'm probably going to keep, but just change so you can so it looks more like a town. The way the textures work is what textures the assets is that they're in parts. So like that block is an asset, that block is a different asset. The good thing with that is you can basically like now that I've put them together, you can just copy like the 4 or 5 assets that makes that now that I've made it, and you can copy them to like a different town, and you could like replace that one with there's like about 25 of them, so I could make like different variations of the watchtower. So even though it took quite a long time to line them up, which it does, because you have to basically move. Bear in mind, so you can see that they're not lined up perfectly, which I can fix, but it was quite difficult to properly line it up to make everything fit correctly because there's no way to like snap it in place. Not that I know of anyway, which probably is. So I just spent all my time kind of like moving each individual accents up and down and right and left and whatever and size and all correct. But once it's made, you can just copy it around, which is good. Same with the houses. So like this is the first one I made of the house, and that's like a separate asset. That's a separate asset. And then you just like block them together. But then once I made it, I could just copy it and paste it across the houses, even though like the individual houses took me like an hour or two to build, and then reuse the asset by just copying it. It was handy. And yeah, I was going for like a balcony type thing, and I gave up, and I was like, this looks stupid. Then I was like, they look so weird because it's meant to be like a kind of old medieval village, so it's not a war. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. It looks like these houses look a bit industrialish, and it's like I was like they wouldn't have 2 stories either, and it looks really odd. So then I cut out the top bit because I was like that looks so much better. I'm still going to work on the roof because the roof I think doesn't look good. There's so many different types of assets for the roof, like corners and different variations of like slabs and tiles and roofs and chimneys. I'm just finding out what works best, but yeah, it looks so much better like this. I made these beds. I made this, but my guy's bigger and it's huge. Then I'm gonna make a wee path. Also ground. That's stuck in there. That was fine. Then the ground. That was just like it's called a plane. So planar terrain. So that allows you to then change and maneuver. Which this is what I'm going to do next. This will be in the next video because this looks really silly because it's just flat, go away. But real land has like mountains and dips and different variations of height and what's the word, like height for and dips and valleys, just like just different sizes to variations of the land, which you can do. You can actually do that, which is really cool. The actual texture for it looks terrible. I know I was just playing around to see what works, and this doesn't. But it looks better than the grey one that was there before. So that's okay. But yeah, like none of this is by design. I'm just playing around. So this, for example, I was just seeing what these assets were and what they look like, even though it looks like a really sad living condition. Like the guy used to live there with his wife and kids. He started drinking. They kicked him out of the house. Now he just sleeps in a little tiny bed and drinks his booze and stares at this little grass hill. See, this won't be in the game. This is just playing around. So that's assets. This again, I was just playing around with that because I was like, I need a center point, which I was going to try and jump there, but I don't have jump into next. There's water in that, and it's just floating water. It's meant to be ground level. I'm going to make a wee fountain there. I'm going to try and make it go up and shoot through there. This was fun to make. This was the first thing like I made, as you can see, because it looks terrible. But each individual part is like a texture, so I was like expanding stuff. I was like, see what I can do. I made like a little corridor and then raised it up. It's cool because like it took a while to like make like one layer of that top bit there. I thought it made sense because I was trying to layer up so it kind of fitted okay. But then once you've made like one layer, you can just copy all the layers and then resize it so it's like they're all shorter and then move it up and that acts as like it goes up the way. That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty much everything so far. What's the other thing I was going to do? Um, Textures. Oh yeah, this is important. So then when I made the textures, then like I was saying about the about the ground, you can now walk on the ground. You don't pass through it. Great. But then all the objects, I was like going right through it. I was passing through the objects. So I asked ChatGPT like what to do with that. Then I figured out it's the same as the ground. So every object has to have its own separate collider, they're called. So every object has a collider, which on the wall, for example, is a box collider, it's called. So there's different types of colliders. A collider is basically like an invisible structure, which goes around the same goes around the same area as the texture, not the texture, the asset. So it registers that when you go near it into a certain boundary that your character cannot pass through that boundary. There is, from what I've learned, there's different types of colliders. So box collider is the most efficient one because it's just basically a straight what it says in the tin. It's a straight box. So therefore it's more efficient if you have like a whole game and there's like thousands of different colliders all running registering if you're passing or not passing. That just makes the game less efficient. It can like lag, stuff like that. So box collider is more efficient because it doesn't do as much work on the physics. The other type of colliders, I can't know off the top of my head. I know the other main one is called a mesh collider. So for example, the trees, trees and like bushes and stuff like that, that's got like more complex design to it, where there's more to register than just like a wall. That's a mesh collider, so that would then fit. You could then fit that to then specifically go around like the trunk of the tree and then the leaves and stuff like that, rather than just a wall. So you only use them when you need to because it's more efficient. Yeah, that's pretty cool because that means you can't pass through objects. And then the next things, which I'm doing, this is what I'm doing right now. So then I'll have to figure out a way to enter the house. I understand if people are actually developers and do make games, you're probably like, this guy's going making is starting on things and not finishing things and going like the complete wrong way about it. I don't really care. The valid, get your point. If you can let me know what I should be doing next, that's fair. I just don't really know the actual process of making a game, so I'm just thinking as of when I'm like, okay, I should do this next, and then doing it. So what I mean by that is I'm now working on entering buildings, which I get is probably not the right thing to do next because there's so many other things that I could do first. But oh well, I'm doing it. Well, my screen just got brighter. Oh, there we go. All right, so um, in my head, there's two ways to do this. There is like Pokemon, another example. You go to a door, then you press it, and then you kind of like tell it, "Whoa, something like that." Whoa, it's shaking. You teleport into the building. In my head, this is probably more efficient because then the building, when you're inside, is a different scene than the outside world. Or you have like Skyrim, or not Skyrim, you do enter it. Try to think of a game where you just open it. But you know what I mean? Like the other option would be like you walk up to the door, you open the door, and then the house is already loaded and exists in the same scene as the world, which is probably, though that would be less efficient. But in a scene like this, where it's just like this is the town, and then after this tutorial, this this won't need to be loaded, so it's not like it's part of the whole world. So I'm going to try and code it so like you walk up to the door, you press it, the door opens, you can see inside, it's already loaded, you can walk in. Hey ho. So after conversing with ChatGPT and it giving me the code and let me know how to do it, I've pretty much almost done it. So what I've learned is very cool because like it's really interesting to learn these things, and I usually struggle to learn it when it's just like all at once or like just a tutorial. It's really easy. It's been much easier to get ChatGPT to have the code and then putting the code into the game, and then doing so I'm then understanding how that kind of works, like functionality wise. Then from that I can then do other stuff because everything once you learn something, it's like everything else is similar to the one thing. For example, like open the door and go inside. It has very similarities to how the box counters work. So my main issue that I didn't know how to do in my head was the the asset that has a door in it. It's actually the wood around it as well, and the bricks. You see that wee square? That's the one asset. So I was like, how do I get the door to register as like a separate asset where when it's not, it's like the one thing. So then with so then what you do is, yeah, I'll actually show you this. I don't know if you can see. So door here. Door. Well, there's so many. Again, this is probably the wrong way to do things. I'm just a new. I'm just a new lady at this kind of stuff. So shop. Yeah, there we go. So I've named the asset. There we go. I've named. Yeah, there's no. I can't do this and look at it. No, I can't. So I've named that asset. I can do it this way, I guess. Turn this way, and then do that. Big brain. So if I so that asset, can I click it? No, I can't. It would usually highlight it when I click this because I'm in game. It won't do it. So that's the bit and the bit around the door, right? Then we've got an empty child that it's called. It's not an actual child. It's just a name for something. So the empty child works as like an invisible, scalable object that you can basically like assign things to. So what that means is I've made that the outline of the door so that it exists in the same interaction as the door exists a smaller object which aligns with the outside of the door. Then you've got a box closure on that. Now instead of the box closure registering that you can't go through the door, which is what it does with the other objects. That one already has that on it. So this one is like a collider that registers if you go into that area, then something happens. And what that thing is, as well, you open the door. So if I expand this out as well, this is a script that I've attached to that door. And the door trigger, it's called. Careful, that sounds like another word. The door trigger, what that does is it the door trigger? Which one is it? I've got two. I've got a, yeah, door interact. Yeah, door trigger. So the door trigger knows that you're in the area of the door, and it knows when you press a button, the door will then open, and then so on. You've done the action. Then there's a separate script. Also, the good thing about this is the good thing about Unity as well is now that that's been made, I can basically just copy that and assign it to any other door, any other entry point, which is handy. And that saves a lot of time. Then there's another one called door interaction, which applies to the player, and that's a script that binds the E key, E for echo, to press that for something to happen when you press the door. And then also at the same time, when you go into that interaction, it brings up an interface, which is called a canvas, which basically says press E to interact with the door. I know it doesn't do it now, it's because I've made it, I've written it, and that was the last thing I've done before I made this tutorial. But the next thing, literally the next thing we do is when you approach that, it will say press E to enter door. Then you can press E, door will swing open, which I haven't coded yet. I'm going to find out how to do that, which sounds tricky, but like everything that I've done so far, it sounds more difficult in my head than it is when I actually finally grasp it. Just like all things, you just have the main thing is just starting. Doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you get there in the end, and then you can go through, and then that's great. So that's pretty much everything. I think I probably didn't explain the door interaction very well because I'm just still in the process of programming it. Whatever. The next updates, which you can follow, and let me drink some water. Damn, this boy's thirsty. I can follow, like, subscribe for more. That is so cringy to say. Yeah. If you want to follow my process, see how things improve. If you want to make your own game, because that's also my main point of making it, because like it's much simpler. I thought, don't get me wrong, it's not simple. If I didn't have ChatGPT to write the code, I don't think I would ever get there. I don't have textures from other people making the textures, which I'm grateful for. That would take ages, and if I wasn't using Unity, that would basically it has all the physics I've built. Because I'm just an ideas man, and then everything everything else works with that. There's no way I'll be able to do this without putting it from scratch. Not at all. So this is not to underplay actual developers. I'm just like vibe coding. 2 minutes. I'll see you back. Yeah, I'm just like vibe coding. So I'm not trying to downplay that at all. Not at all. I could not do that. I went to college for it and done computing. I'm good at like computing. That's why it's probably taken me quicker to understand than most people. But the coding aspect of it, it's been really difficult to grasp that. So yeah, props to people that actually games develop. That is a hard gig. Oh, look at my guy standing. That's very cool. That is awesome, man. Like, I didn't even. That's not even like a something that is intended. Well, obviously it's intended, but it's cool how that just works. Like it just registers. That's all. There you go. Yeah, but next updates, moving, interacting with houses, going inside them. Then I'm going to fix these houses so they're more kind of like accurate. There's going to be chimneys and interiors, then fix this grass, make the terrain actual go up and down and all about the place. Then I'm gonna make NPCs, which now that I understand how the door interaction works, it's actually much simpler than I thought because the NPCs just essentially they're not magical beings, they're just essentially like an object, like the house is, but they will move, which could be tricky, but we'll get there. But say they're going to be stationary at first, and then you would just make a script that like the interaction is script with the door, but it's if you enter into the boundary of or the collider of the NPC, then it registers for them to do an action, which would be to like talk to you and stuff like that. So I'll start on that as well, which is going to be pretty fun because then I can start making the actual building blocks of the story. Then I'm going to scale everything so it's a bit more sizable. Fix the forest so it actually looks a bit more realistic. Then sort this fountain out. Then add in like a jumping feature in, which doesn't seem like it'll be that much tricky because I was watching some tutorials. It doesn't look actually that bad considering what's been so far. This took me like probably days, longer than I'm willing to admit, to get to this point. But what I will say is most of the time was spent just just like trying to figure out trouble, trying to get being stuck. When I actually got the well, not the grasp of it, because again I'm just like ChatGPT's helping me. But to just help anybody else there is struggling to start. When I've actually when I actually got to the point where I could move and and apply textures, like it was really quick. I would say like maybe a day that it took to make this all the houses, the trees, the interaction thing that I'm working on. I just line everything up and then have the guy interact. Essentially, it's just like Minecraft. You're like moving the blocks and line them up, and then when there's like a thing you want to learn how to do, you just ask ChatGPT how to do it, and then once you implement it, you can just copy that and apply it to like the other things in the game. So it's like the hardest part is just making the first thing, and then because of the way the Unity works, you can just like apply that to other things. And like so once you've made the interaction script for a door, which may take a wee while, you can just apply it to any door. So then that's sorted. What houses take a wee while, but then like most houses are just going to be like a redesign of this house. So I can just copy that and use it again. So like, it's not as hard as you might think to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes, and um, I'm excited to try and implement like concepts that I've not seen in games before. Like one of the things is I'm excited to get to this point. This is far away, but I'm gonna because the game has like essentially reincarnation in it because you can essentially replay yourself. That's why you're respawning, and the goddess is giving you that power to do so. I'm also going to have it later on in the game where you have the ability to respawn as like a different being that's not yourself. And the idea of that is that the goddess has powers to. It's not just you that she's able to do this for. So like, it's going to be a time where, for example, like your whole goal in the game is to stop the inevitable future destruction of humanity and also stop the person who's trying to kill you. In doing so, you have to then die, repeat, live again until you can actually win. So you essentially have to like keep going back and like respawn until you get it right, basically. So even though you respawn, you retain your memories of your previous lives. Just like respawn in a video game, the things that went wrong in the last playthrough didn't happen anymore. You just basically respawn from the same point. So I'm going to have a point in the game where like you are stuck, and you cannot get past it, and you'll keep respawning, keep trying. It's going to be something that like the bad people will do, and they'll basically change the rules of what they're doing. That will then affect you so much that you can't even proceed. And then the goddess will be like, basically, okay, I'm changing the rules a little bit to let you respawn, and we're not getting anywhere. This is not getting resolved. So you're going to have the ability to. Because I'm she's like, I'm going to change the rules as well. Then if they're going to change the rules, it's the only way to beat them. And then she'll allow you to live like a different life to then save your main character. So then that will lead up to you're going to be able to have like different different saves of like different characters that aren't your main save that you can then interact with the same world and like help out your own character. Which is really good. Like say like your main character is like a I don't know like a warrior like with like sword and shield and stuff like that, and you need help from like an archer or like someone sneaky or like someone with magic, you can then like live a different life playthrough of like a temporary like archer or mage or something like that to then help your own main character if you're stuck, which that'll be so cool to try and implement. I don't know any games that's did that before. I don't even know if it'd be possible and it's possible, but that'd be cool. Like imagine like you're just like stuck and you're like, wow, I can't get through this, and then you can you go and you have to become like like an archer, like sniping the people. You're just helping yourself basically, and you can see your own character, and you can just jump back to the character once you got past it. So it'll be like a cool kind of puzzle way to get around things. Like you have to kind of jump between different characters that have different like classes and abilities to also proceed, and it's kind of explained in game how that works. That's cool. Enough of my waffling. So if you want to follow this, just like or subscribe this channel. More importantly, have any questions I can answer about like the coding if it's somebody's first time and they want to also try, even just to get the person moving. That's the main thing that I struggled with. I just comment, all right, if you want me to make a video of it actually going over the scripts or or posting like the scripts online so that you can download them and just copy it for yourselves. It's also cool because like I want everybody to start as well that have an idea for a game. It's been so fun. So yeah, till next time. See ya.